Another win for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's now 4 in a row. They're 1 point out of first place in the Metropolitan Division. I have a full game recap coming up for you all right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to this Friday evening episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow this show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Penguins, they keep stacking wins. That's now 6 of their last 8, 15 of their last 17. 4 in a row also. As Penguins are now, again, just 1 point out of first place in the Metropolitan Division. I know the Hurricanes have 3 games in hand, but the Penguins still have 1 game in hand on the Rangers. So they could easily be in second as early as this weekend or potentially even next week. I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to get right into this right now. Get the big negative thing out of the way with the biggest takeaways. If this wasn't an indictment, for Mike Sullivan pulling Casey DeSmith when it comes to his confidence and saying that he doesn't trust him, I don't know what his. This game was 2-2 going into the second period. 2 pretty weak goals, I would say. And Sully's like, you know what? F that. I'm going to go put in my starter, who's been a top 5 goaltender in the league this year, and he didn't allow a goal the rest of the way. Technically, kind of did with the Domi one, but that was obviously offside, so that was taken back. So without that, he didn't allow anything past him, just for the last 40 minutes. But the thing is, and I've been clamoring this point home in this podcast for the last several weeks, and on my social medias and stuff, they have to go out and get a goaltender. I don't know how long Louis Domingue is going to be out. I don't think he's a long-term answer at your backup position. I don't know what's going on with Casey DeSmith. It's weird because he was a 9-12 goalie last year, had 2 really good starts before the Christmas break this year. It was like, wow, he could be returning to form like where he was last year. And, that would have been fine because he was actually pretty good going into the playoffs. And, there were fans clamoring for him to come in if he was fully healthy because Tristan Jarry screwed up that much. Now a complete 180 has happened, and he can't even stop a beach ball, if someone shot a beach ball at him. So, they are going to have to go out and get someone. And again, Mike Sullivan, I think, sent a message there to Ron Hextall, who was probably sitting up above with Brian Burke, saying, I don't trust this guy. I hope you don't trust this guy either. Please go out and get Tristan Jarry some help. And hopefully sooner rather than later he does. I know the trade market is really hot right now with goaltenders. I mean, there's a lot of teams that need them. You look at a team like the Washington Capitals, I've seen them being floated around as a Fleury destination, though. I don't know if Fleury has them on his NTC list. Who knows? It makes a lot of sense, even though it would kind of stink. Edmonton's looking for a goalie. Several other teams, I'm sure, out there. Toronto, I think, could use a backup behind Jack Campbell, just et cetera, et cetera. So I would have to think before the deadline Ron is going to make a move because this can't go on any longer. That first one, Nyquist whiffs on the shot. It's pretty good defense. And then for some reason, DeSmith does not close off the angle on his near side post and still lets the goal in. And I was just like really confused while watching that because I feel like a high school or a college goaltender could have made that save. And, I understand, goaltending, it's very hard to analyze, just because sometimes the stats don't tell the whole story. But I did not like the goal he gave up there. And then the second one, I don't even know what was going on there. Just a really weak goal to allow. And again, kudos to Sully for pulling the trigger because remember, this was a 2-2 game going into the second period. Most coaches will be like, let's see how he responds in the second. But, I think Mike really wanted these 2 points and he could see that the team was outplaying Columbus and he put his starter. And even though he got a lot of work last night and he was like, you know what, screw it, we're going to see what happens here. And, to his credit, Tristan played really well, as he has done all year. I was not surprised. He made a lot of really nice saves. The one, I think, on Roslovic, I want to say that was in the second period when it was 2-2, was just a hell of a save off of a 2-on-1 opportunity, just a hell of a saucer pass there. I think it was from Werenski, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it's coming to a head. Something needs to change, and hopefully sooner rather than later, Ron is going to make a move there. Outside of that, though, I thought the Penguins were really good tonight, especially coming off a back-to-back. I loved the way they started this game. They were forechecking with a high amount of intensity, just really ferocious all around. Their defensive work, I thought, was really good. Especially their net front work. I think that was one of the main differences that I saw to start this game, and I think throughout the game as well. They weren't being pushed around in front of that area. They were actually, boxing players out, letting Jarre see, the pucks and all that when he came in, at least. And again, that was just I think a huge 180 from what we saw. Just the last few games overall, just because it has become a problem. Overall, if we look at the underlying numbers for the game, Columbus actually led with 52% of the shot attempts, but at 5v5, the Penguins led the way with 58% of the scoring chances, also 58% of the high danger chances, 2.22 expected goals for, 1.94 for Columbus. So the Penguins had 53% of the expected goals for in terms of that number, and then outscored them 3-1 at even strength. If we go to all situations, everything turns in the Penguins' favor even more. They led in 54% of the shot attempts, 63% of the scoring chances, 62% of the high danger chances, almost 5 expected goals for, and of course they win 5-2, and 2.64 expected goals for the Blue Jackets. So the Penguins got the result they deserved tonight. The numbers back that up. The eye test backs it up. This was just a really nice win. And, I'm glad that there were a lot of Penguins fans in Columbus because, sometimes, Jackets fans in recent years, when they've been, I think, more competitive, they've tried to sell that place out, especially when Pittsburgh comes to town, because the Penguins fans come in buses. Not tonight. I want to say that was probably at least 40% Penguins fans, if not more. It sounded like a close to a 50-50 split, but Columbus is not that good this year. But also, it was finally nice to play those guys again. I miss those matchups. I understand that it's a big brother, little brother thing, but some of those games they're high intensity. It's a little bit of a mini rivalry, even though it kind of reminds me of Steelers-Bengals in recent years. Obviously not this year with how the Bengals played against them, but it's just the games have always been competitive. I know John Tortorella is not there anymore, and the Jackets are not, that same boring trap team that they actually opened up the game a lot tonight. But, just it's really fun to play those guys again and just, have a little bit of a sense of normalcy as we try to hopefully get back, to a full normal, especially hopefully when this pandemic eventually ends at some point. I'm going to get to Sidney Crosby later on in this episode because what a game he had. I thought Evgeny Malkin was, a little bit of mixed bag. Crystal Tang, we're going to get into him as well. Just the power play. We'll get into all of this. It's a full game recap episode for a reason. But before we get to that, so it is a new year, obviously, and that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill, you want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. By like week 3, you might be thinking this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most of them contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Here's an idea for the new year. Go to your secret treat stashes. Maybe that's at home, in the pantry, in your office, the car, wherever. Throw out all the sugary or calorie-filled treats and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. Remember, you can go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter here at LOS for Penguins. I'm going to take a beautiful sip here of my beverage of the evening. That tastes so good. It's a Friday night. I'm going to have a Jack and Coke if I feel like it, especially after a Penguins win. And no, I am perfectly fine recording this podcast. Anyways, Sidney Crosby tonight. I mean, this was probably his best performance of the season. Started out a bit slow, remember, 3 points in 8 games. Since then, in his next 20 games, 28 points. That is good for a 115-point base. Seems pretty good. It's almost like Sidney Crosby is still one of the best players in the league. And that what I heard from Capitals media and some people from Capitals fans about a month and a half ago when talking about Ovechkin, that Sid is washed, that's just a bunch of baloney. Just never been the case. Don't listen to those people. Don't compare those players usually overall just because they're two different players. I had to throw a dig at them, especially the Capitals media, because I think a lot of those people just don't really know what they're talking about up there. But, he's playing at a very high level. All 3 of his goals were just vintage Sid goals, especially even the empty netter. And I'll get to that in a second. But the first one, he goes around the net, right? That's his office. He loves being at the net front. Sit down low on the power play is a thing for a reason. But, this isn't even strength. This is right after the Penguins. They give up that 2-1. The Blue Jackets, make it 2-1 off of a really bad Casey DeSmith goal. He said, again, it goes around the front of the net, gets a ridiculous deflection off a shot. Boom, tie game, 30 seconds left going into the second. It's just like, you don't teach that kind of stuff. And it was just a perfectly timed deflection. And again, where is Sid? Right at the front of the net in his office doing his thing. That was the most Sidney Crosby goal of all time. The second one comes on the 5-on-3. The Jackets take 2 really stupid penalties. The second one was a easy delay a game call. I mean, that's going to be called every time. The first one, I believe, was when Boone Jenner decided to do Boone Jenner things, gave Ryan Dumoulin kind of a nasty cross check. Don't really understand what he was going there, but, that's just what Boone Jenner has done throughout his career in Columbus. Shout out to him. He has the C letter, at least on his jersey now. So at least that's good for them. But, a lot of beautiful passes on the power play. But the one that really takes the cake, that Bryan Rust won to Sid. He gets the puck, goes around a defender a little bit, fires it, or just has a beautiful saucer pass through about 3 to 4 sticks. Boom, Sid one times it in 4-2. And it's just like, I know like the shot is so good because Sid has a hell of a one-timer, but that pass was just disgusting from Bryan Rust. I mean, again, you don't teach that kind of stuff at hockey school either. And the way that he was able to find that passing lane, that's what a good to an elite player does in this league. And there are not many players that can just, find a lane like that and deliver that quality pass. I mean, sure, a lot of the other, elite players can, but, for an average, run-of-the-mill NHL player, they're not going to be able to do that. But Bryan Rust is not that. He's a top 6 winger for a reason. He's also on the top power play for a reason. Beautiful pass there. And, Sid was able to put the game away 4-2. And then his third goal, wasn't even trying to score it, off the boards, and then has the angle, goes in the empty net. I mean, if that's not the most Sidney Crosby empty net goal, I don't know what is. And you could see him just laughing and smiling about it after, because, again, he knows he probably wasn't aiming for it. If he was aiming for a pass there, he just got lucky enough that, it didn't hit anyone. And, what do you know? He gets a lucky bounce off of it. Excuse me. And at the end of the day, they get the 5-2 lead, and that was curtains. After that, Mike Matheson. So this was another game-winning goal from him. I believe now he has 5 game-winning goals with the Penguins, which is, I want to say that's getting close to like, I don't think it's a record, but it's higher than a lot of other players the last couple of years that have been on this team. He got a little bit lucky with that one. I mean, sure, it was a bit of a rifle from the point, but the puck bounced on edge through Korpisalo's 5-hole. If that puck is flat, that's the same situation from what we saw in Los Angeles with Jake Ensel would have stopped on the goal line, and I'm sure Nyquist would be able to clear it. But the fact that it was rolling on edge made the puck have a little more momentum. So that's why it went into the net, and it didn't stop right on the goal line, just as we all saw, about a week ago in Los Angeles, when, Gensel almost had the tying goal late in the second period, but the puck basically stays right on the goal line because it's flat in that scenario. Very rarely will the puck, have the momentum that, a bouncing or a rolling puck would. So Nice shot there from Matheson. Things you love to see. Brian Dumoulin, he has another goal tonight. I tweeted about this on my social media. For those that don't follow me, the Penguins have really started to get a lot more offense from their defensemen lately, and I can't say enough how big that is. Because early on in the season, I want to say throughout the first 15, 20 games, something like that, they only had about 1 to 2 goals from their defensemen. And I remember talking about it on the show because that was close to dead last, if not dead last in the NHL. Now lately, especially with Chris Letang scoring a little bit more, Brian Dumoulin's goal tonight, that's now 3 goals in the last 2 games for Mike Matheson. The defensemen are starting to put the puck in the back of the net more, and that's huge. Obviously, your forwards are going to score most of your goals. I mean, that's why they're playing forward. They're paid to score goals here. But, it's always nice to have the defensemen that, that they can chip in every once in a while. The Penguins were not getting that at the start of the season. Well, they are now, and then some. So I really have been liking that lately, especially when it comes to Matheson. I mean, he's having just a ridiculous season at this point. I said it on Thursday's episode. I'll say it here. I mean, the key to unlocking him, just keep giving him these bottom pairing minutes. Hell, if you want to give him a couple extra minutes a night and play him top 4 sometimes, I think you can get away with that. But you don't want to be doing that on an every night basis. I think you'll just get crushed that way. I mean, because, we all saw what happened last year when he played with Marino in a top 4 role, and he kind of got exposed. This year he's been able to play most of his minutes in a sheltered role with Chad Riedel, who has also been really good this year and kind of one of their unsung heroes on the blue line. And you're seeing the results with how much offense he's providing, how good he's been in the defensive zone, and just his all-around game has been awesome. And he's definitely not worth his cap hit. I mean, that's just a lot for a lot of years. But he's playing at a very high level, and the Penguins they've badly needed, I think, someone else other than Chris Letang to step up. And speaking of Chris Letang, I thought he was really good tonight too. This was just a much needed bounce back from him, just because he really struggled, I thought, against the Senators on Thursday night. Tonight was not really coughing the puck up much. Defensively, he was fine. Offensively, he had some really nice passes on the power play. Just everything all around with Tanger, I thought, was really good, I would say. Trying to think here. Aston Reese, so he made his return tonight. I don't think he played much in the third period. I think he was nursing a bit of an injury, but it was interesting to me that Brian Boyle was the one that was scratched and not Dominic Simone. I think it was probably because Simone has been playing well lately. The game in Vegas, remember he got the helmet after the game, in case you all were on social media, the Penguins give away that, that what's the the bold penguin helmet. I almost screwed it up there for a sec. Just the player of the game and stuff, and he got it just because of how great defensively he was, and he was creating chances. He then scores last night, and then I think that was the main reason why he is the 13th forward right now and not Boyle. That's not to say that I don't think Brian Boyle is having a good season. I think he's been a relatively surprise for the Penguins this season. But when Aston Reese is coming back, I mean, he deserves to be in the lineup over someone like Boyle. So this is the closest they've been to a fully healthy lineup. The only one that they're missing is Jason Zucker. And, I wish the best for him at this point. He's week to week right now with the same injury. I don't really just, I think I've actually almost nailed everything for this game. I do want to say this, coming up in the next segment, I'm going to get into why the Penguins are just, a perfectly kept secret in the league right now. And yes, again, they're 1 point out of first place in the Metropolitan Division. So stay tuned coming up for this next segment. Just going to go into why, I want everyone, to just keep sleeping on this team. But first, BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. The BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, LO_Penguins. Again, I'm going to take a sip here of this drink. And we are back. I think I honestly need more drinks while um, I record these, because usually before I started the video, I would pause sometimes just because I would start to get out of breath. And I think the people that are on videos, they sometimes notice that if I hunch down a little bit. I think I don't know, I talk too quick, or excuse me, maybe I talk too much, something like that. But, so the Penguins, again, that's 15-17, 6 of the last 8, 4 in a row. I love that this is a perfectly kept secret hockey team. I want the media to keep hyping up Tampa Bay and Florida and Vegas and Colorado and all these other teams, Carolina. Um, I want the Penguins to keep doing their thing, because if they keep doing that and no one keeps talking about them, they're just going to keep flying under the radar. And honestly, that's completely fine with me. I don't want them to be a Stanley Cup favorite on a basically an every year basis. We've seen that for many years. Remember 2012, 2013, everyone picked them to beat the Bruins in the Eastern Conference Final. What happened? 2013, 14, everyone picked them to go play Chicago again in the final that year. We all saw what happened. 2015, 16, they fell off the radar a little bit. Then they steamrolled everyone in the playoffs. 2016, 17, not a lot of people picked them to go back to back. They steamrolled everyone the next year without even having Chris Letang. And, last year, I thought they were under the radar. They should have won their first round playoff series. They did not. But this year, again, I think that team is better than last year's. And, they're playing like it, especially with the underlying numbers right now. And I want people to keep ignoring what they're doing. I don't need a lot of media attention on this team or anything like that. So wanted to get that off my chest a little bit. A couple other things that I noticed from tonight's game. If Danton Heinen could stop missing empty nets and not giving me my free cockeye barbecue from one of my best friends, Jeff, that would be really nice, because, again, 2-2 hockey game, Dan Heinen has a wide open net, a juicy rebound, floats it just wide. And I'm pretty sure that's like the third empty net in the last 5 or 6 games that he's missed. He's definitely cooled off a little bit. I mean, this is not to say that he's been bad this year, because he hasn't, but he's definitely cooled off a little bit as of late. But, he still probably should have 11 or 12 goals right now with the chances that he's been getting, especially with just the empty nets that he's somehow been missing. I'm sure if you give him those chances, 8 or 9 more times, he probably scores every single time. So, I'm sure he'll correct it at some point. Jake Gensel, I have no idea how he did not score numerous times tonight. He had, I think, in the first period, 5 or 6 shot attempts, which was leading the team. He had a breakaway in the second period. Tried to go 5-hole Corpusalo. He made a hell of a save. He was everywhere on the ice tonight. He was probably the best player that didn't score, at least in my opinion. And he continues just, his torrid pace. Honestly, when he doesn't score in games, I'm now surprised, just because of how many chances this guy gets on a nightly basis. Just the level of play that he has right now is nothing short of, outstanding. So really pleased with how he played. So the Penguins are back in action on Sunday, game against Winnipeg. If I recall correctly, this is an afternoon matinee game. And if my memory serves me right, this is a 1 o'clock game. Yes, 1 o'clock on Sunday. NHL Network and AT&T Sports Network. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get the game on ESPN Plus. If it's an NHL Network exclusive game, the games are not on ESPN Plus. So I'm probably going to have to go to Stream East or something like that, some illegal site, to watch the game. Winnipeg is fighting for their playoff lives. That should be, I think, a pretty good game. Connor Hellebuck has been really good this year. Kyle Connor, I think he's been having a really underrated year for Winnipeg. 21 goals, 40 points in 36 games. He leads them in goals, assists, and points. He's been that good this year for Winnipeg. And, they have obviously, Dubois is still there, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, so many, Nikolai Healers. Of course, they have so many very good players. And it's weird that, Winnipeg is fighting for the playoff line, just because they have a lot of talent there, and I am going to go look at their lines real quick just to see who the Penguins will be getting. If I can go to left wing lock real quick here. So yeah, they're going to get Hellebuck, Andrew Kopp with Scheifele and Paul Stastny. I almost forgot that Paul Stastny is on Winnipeg. Pierre-Luc Dubois with Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti. He is now recently called up. Adam Lowry on the third line. Svechnikov on the fourth line with Tony Donato, Josh Morrissey with Dylan DeMello on the top pairing, Neil Pionk on the second pairing, Nate Schmidt is on the third pairing, So yeah, I actually almost forgot. Excuse me. So that's my fault. Nikolai Ehlers is a bit banged up, so it doesn't look like he'll be playing this one. Apologies on that one. So I'm excited for this one. Winnipeg, they're always usually chaotic games in Pittsburgh. They've had a lot of really back and forth ones, especially in overtime. I think where the Penguins, I think one of them was like a 7-6 win. I want to say just a few years ago. So I'm excited. It's always a fun game when these two teams play. The Penguins also have 6 games at home coming up here in this next stretch. But overall, great win tonight by the Penguins. Casey DeSmith stunk it first. Tristan Jarry was able to finish it, and Sidney Crosby was able to have another hat trick for his storied career. That'll wrap up this one for the Locked On Penguins podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm glad that I was able to do another full week of episodes for you all. But the best part is we're back starting on Monday. Full game recap of the game against Winnipeg. And, we'll get to preview some of the matchups coming up later on in the week as well. So that'll do it for this one. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Let's go, Pens. And I'll be back with you all on Monday.